The separation of the African continent. The African continent is one of the most fascinating places on Earth. With its rich cultural heritage, diverse wildlife, and unique geography, it is a land that captivates the imagination. But one of the most interesting aspects of Africa is its geological history. In particular, the separation of Africa from the other continents is a story that spans millions of years and involves a complex interplay of geological forces. The separation of the African continent from the other continents is known as the rifting process. This process began around 200 million years ago, during the late Triassic period. At that time, the Earth's landmasses were joined together in a single supercontinent known as Pangaea. Pangaea began to break apart, and the landmass that would become Africa began to move away from the other continents. The process of rifting began in what is now the region of the Red Sea. At this time, a large crack opened up in the Earth's crust, and molten rock, magma, began to well up from beneath the surface. This magma pushed the African plate away from the other continents and created a new oceanic plate between Africa and what is now Saudi Arabia. Over the next several million years, this oceanic plate continued to widen as the African plate moved further away from the other continents. As the oceanic plate widened, it also sank down into the Earth's mantle, creating a new ocean basin. This basin is now known as the Red Sea. The rifting process continued in other parts of Africa as well. Another rift began to open up in what is now the eastern part of Africa, around 30 million years ago. This rift is known as the East African Rift System, and it is still active today. The East African Rift System is responsible for the formation of the Great Rift Valley, a massive geological formation that extends from Syria in the north to Mozambique in the south. The East African Rift System is characterized by a series of faults and grabens, which are areas of the Earth's crust that have dropped down between two parallel faults. The grabens are filled with sediment, which has accumulated over millions of years. The sedimentary layers in the grabens provide a rich record of the geological and biological history of the region. As the rifting process continued, the African plate continued to move away from the other continents. Eventually, it collided with the Eurasian plate, creating the Mediterranean Sea. This collision also caused the formation of the Alps and other mountain ranges in southern Europe. Today, the African continent is still moving, although at a much slower pace than in the past. The movement of the African plate is responsible for the formation of the African Rift Valley, a massive geological formation that extends from Syria in the north to Mozambique in the south. The African Rift Valley is home to a wide variety of geological and biological wonders, including volcanoes, lakes, and unique ecosystems. In conclusion, the separation of the African continent from the other continents is a story that spans millions of years and involves a complex interplay of geological forces. The rifting process began around 200 million years ago and is still ongoing today. This process created a new oceanic plate between Africa and what is now Saudi Arabia and led to the formation of the Red Sea. It also created the East African Rift System and the Great Rift Valley, which are still active today. The movement of the African plate is responsible for the formation of many of Africa's unique geological and biological wonders and continues to shape the continent's landscape today.